It's the easiest thing I'll do all day is sit in the car, come up here and sit. Nobody needs anything from you. You know, they're trying to figure out right now in Ducktown. They finally got the water right now, Ducktown, Copper Hill. And they, from like all that flooding and all that, and they had no water. I mean, Ducktown had no water for several days. Copper Hill had no water for even more after that. The infrastructure up there is terrible. And so, you know, what's needed is a big overhaul, but the only thing you can do short term is bottles of water. And so they were asking me to, you know, could we help coordinate something or whatever? And it's just like, how do you even, I mean, you guys know how the world worked when you saw your boys in there. I mean, it's from the minute you walk in, I mean, it's kind of probably like being a teacher. When the minute you walk in, someone is, you're directing their attention the entire time you're there, you know, and there's no time to really coordinate a whole lot. But so that's why sitting in the car doesn't bother me a bit.
Yeah.
I'm down to sit in the car, listen to a podcast or.
So did you say you were getting water bottles? We got Crystal Geyser on the scene.
Crystal Geyser gives a lot, but you know who gives the most is Tarver. I mean, I bet it wasn't 12 hours and Tarver had a truck heading up there.
I believe it.
And I don't know who contacts them. I don't know who gets that rolling, but they don't waste any time getting up there.
I believe it.
Yep, that's good people.
Yep, for sure.
They're good.
Bryan Clary. All right.
Yes, sir.
So let's just get this out here. We got common ground. Both of us. We sent some
Wounded
boys.
warriors.
We sent some boys through your school.
Yeah. And they, I've not seen them in a while. It's arguable, you know, how well they emerged from that school.
They're both doing great, aren't they?
They are both. Yes, they're both living life, man. Bryan, for those of you that don't know, is a physical therapist. Is that
Correct.
Right? He used to be at, what was the name of that office?
Center for Sports Med.
Center for Sports Medicine there in Cleveland. That's where our boys went and spent way more time than what I would have ever hoped for. But they got to meet you, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But now you are at Polk Physical Therapy. Is that the name of your place?
That's right.
Where's that at?
It is. Now I said this one time on Heartline, and he got mad because, or not mad, he made fun of me because I didn't give him a physical location. I gave him a description of the surrounding area.
You didn't say it was between Old Fort and Benton, did you?
I said, yeah, between Old Fort and Benton. Yeah, between Benton and Delano, between Benton and Linsdale.
Okay, but you're on 411.
We're right on 411. So you know where Benton Shooters is. That's what everyone. That's the landmark.
Mm-hmm.
If you come back 100 yards from Benton Shooters, on the right is a building that at one point was a part of like an Adventist church development. Sat empty for 10 years. We got fortunate. A woman bought it. Now it's been almost 3 years ago, and we moved over there. But before then, we were down on 64 Highway right by the dam. And why, you ask? Because that was literally the only place for rent in West Polk County.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's where we went. And so I show up, and I walk up to the thing. There's a sign in the door, and I call the number on it, and I get back in the car, call the number on it. And guy answers his phone and said, "This is Chris." And I'm talking to him, and it was, legendary Vol Chris White. And he had built that building. Yeah. Nobody had rented it yet. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll come back and meet you." And so we went back, and we were there for a little while. And he'd come by and talk of his time in Knoxville. And there's you one for the podcast. If you ever get him
Chris
on.
White.
Yeah. Have you ever heard his story about going to Knoxville? And it's a real story that is relevant to the age of the transfer portal. He went up to Knoxville, could have gone really anywhere, sat the bench for 4 years, by an injury, got to play. Like literally this guy, he's going out there at, I think, UCLA. I've heard him tell this story a few times, but they're at UCLA. The guy can't come out of his break, goes up as a quarterback, ends up as safety. Comes out of his break, he hurt his ankle, can't play. They put him in, he has 3 picks. Ends up having 9 picks. The only year he gets to play after sitting the bench, he's an All-American. And that's just him just sitting and waiting his turn. So he's telling me all these stories, and I'm thinking this is going to be fantastic. We're going to drink coffee and hang out and all this. I hadn't even finished putting my stuff in there, and I walk in one day and there's a list on the floor, or a letter on the floor that says building's been sold. And, I think that lease was the last linchpin he needed to close the deal. And so he kept up with us but hadn't seen him much since then. But we were there for 2 years and then moved on up to Benton.
Now, do you live out in Polk County, or are you from Polk County?
No, I live here in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And
why Polk? Why Polk?
So, I was at the center for 12 years, and I was at the center from a time that we were on. I was sitting about to point north, but there's really not a whole lot of Bradley County you can point north to from Walker Valley. But we were at the mall. And man, do you remember that at all? We were renting a space at the mall, Center for Sports Med, was to see. They were kicking tires, just kind of seeing if we came up to Cleveland, would it work? And they're a big, well-run company. They were going to figure it out. And they partnered with Stone & Johnson. Stone & Johnson came up there, and we were there. That was January of 11 was when it first opened. And so I was there for 3 or 4 years, and then Grebner signed on. And then when Grebner signed on, they felt pretty good about it. So they built the building they're in now. Yeah. And then a couple of years after that, Spangler came on, and blew up after that. Mm-hmm. So I ended up being there about 12 years.
Were you with them before the move? Were you with them in Chattanooga?
I had done an internship. So I did an internship with them in the spring of 10. I moved back up to the Knoxville area for 1 year, and then moved back. Basically called them and said, if you guys had anything open, I'd want to move back. And they said, well, we're opening a place in Cleveland. And I thought, well, I'll move there. When something opens up in Chattanooga, I'll take it. And then I was there for 12 years. Yeah. And so, in that time, we went from really 2 PTs, 1 PTA to probably 8 full-time people in that space. It just blew up. And I'd been there through the whole thing. I'd kind of served in a couple different roles of the athletic trainers, and I knew the community well. And it just felt like I needed to get out of town. And I don't know really how to explain that. It just felt like I was, I'd bounced around on the idea of going out and doing something. And there was something about 36. I don't know if you guys had a similar crisis at 36, but something about 36, I thought, man, I'm running out of time. Like if I was ever to go do something, I either need to do it now or I need to get comfortable and stay put.
Bryan, I was in therapy at 36. So that's when I reached that threshold.
I needed
the next 3.5 years of my life.
I needed to be in therapy at 36.
I hear you. I don't even say it lightly, even though we're chuckling. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah. I guarantee you it would have helped me to do something. And it had me just anxious. What am I doing? Am I going to stay here? And the center had been really good to me. Center gave me an opportunity to apply for and go to a traveling fellowship. They paid me for 2 weeks at one point, and they flew me around the country. I spent time with the Timberwolves, with the Twins, with TCU baseball, with just all over the country. Very cool. Let me do that. 2 years later, there was an opportunity to apply to go to the Olympic Training Center. So I sent in an application, never heard anything for a year. They wrote me back and said, hey, can you be in Colorado Springs at this date? And they let me go. And I was there for a few weeks.
Mr. Taylor was telling me about that as we were walking down the steps.
So, that's...
he was bragging on you.
Yeah, that was, it was a big goal. But when you get done with all that and you start looking down the road, you think, what else is there? I still am, but it was really close with Dr. Spangler. And so that was probably the hardest thing for me. He and I had kind of, and I could tell that story too, of just kind of how we got from the outside into Bradley County schools. But I just felt like the only right thing for me to do was to leave town and see if it could work. And it just happened to be that Polk County didn't really have a lot of representation. We'd already been there covering the football team. Derek Davis had just returned to town, and I knew that I could get on the sideline with him, and if anything, maybe get patience out of that. And that's what we did. And it was like, looking back now, I feel like I should have been more scared than I was. I mean, we literally, so my wife, who had quit her job previously as a bank manager here in town and worked part-time at Black Fox while the boys were in school, with the plan that, at some point I got to go back to work. I mean, physical therapy is not it's, there's not a lot of physical therapists in Anatole, we'll say that. And so she just got all on board, and we took a HELOC loan from our house, and we just went out there and we survived on it. And I mean, it's probably 2 years before it turned around and started looking like a good idea, where I wasn't getting up at 3 a.m. and walking down to the couch and just be like, I've just blown my kids' lives up. What the heck am I doing here? We weren't real busy then, and we'd go across the street to Sugarloaf, and we would every day at lunch, and we would just walk parking lot down the river, parking lot up the hill and back around. And I remember going down there, and we'd just, how long are we going to do this? Well, we got one more year on the lease, and so we got to do that. Well, at what point do I go do something else? And we do this 3 days a week. And I remember her just telling me, and I tend to be a negative person. She's negative, but also encouraging to you. So somehow she just kept telling me, like, she'll
Hold on, negative. That's a loaded word. What do you really mean by that?
So go to the grocery store with her after Sunday, boy, Fruit Loops look good. No, you don't need those Fruit Loops. Come on, and like, so she's no on everything. But on that, no, if you're in this, you got to commit to it. You got to lock to it. We're doing this 5 days a week, and we're going to figure it out. And then just like 1 month, it just turned around, and we started filling up a little bit, and we just kind of slowly built to what it is now. But I knew we couldn't be at 64 forever. That was just didn't make any sense for anyone to go there, to be, right across from the dam. It's a brewery now, which is that makes sense for that area. Rafters coming off the river. Physical therapy was weird, but it just had to be divine intervention that it worked. And
I'm imagining these broke guides coming down with shoulders messed up.
Not really, because they are. So I wondered that too. I literally,
they just power through.
If I explained to you how we got out there, you'd think that's you needed another year of planning. That makes no sense. I didn't even know how to bill insurance. I had no idea how to do it, but I just knew. I've been a slow roller on everything, and I think that I can get to a level of mastery, but but it's going to take me a little bit. And I knew if we get out there, we'd figure it out. We'd figure out what we didn't know. We'd figure out what we needed to know. Really, it was post-op. Spangler kept me alive. For months, and hopefully, I would try to send him people and people at the center, but Spangler kept him alive. If someone needed something, kept us alive. Someone needed something, I'd call the office manager at the center. Hey, I got 70-year-old back pain and it's not getting any better. Can I please get him into the doc? Oh yeah, tell them we'll see him tomorrow. They just gave everyone I sent them VIP treatment, and I think that helped me a lot. But physical therapy is kind of a luxury. It's
but it's not supposed to be.
You have to go through. It's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
But the steps that insurance makes you go through to get there, maybe you go to your primary care, then you got to go to a orthopedic specialist. By the time you get to physical therapy, you really want to be there. The raft guides were not going to do that. And I completely agree to you with you. It should be, in my opinion, the first stop. There's a lot of wasted revenue in other areas that you could just send to physical therapy. If your back hurts and you went to physical therapy before and it helped you, just go back that path. You don't want to go through all the other things. So that's been something that we've really had to focus on in Polk County, because you know, and it's a very proud place, and I certainly don't want to paint it as an area of you know, sadness by any means, but.
No, we sat with John Dixon, man.
Yeah,
There's no sadness there. Get
there's
out
no
of here.
sadness down there.
Sadness up there.
But there is, you know, there's things you take for granted that, you know, the kids that you know, my son he's a freshman here this year you got a group of boys, and every one of them comes from a similar background and two parents that are going to help them and all that. You don't get that out there. And so there's really, I think a lot of our fulfillment is helping people get into the system. It is not right for your shoulder to hurt that long. Here's the steps you need to take.
Yeah, I get that.
So it's been fulfilling, but I don't know if there's an order that you want to go in, but I'll tell you kind of how when Spangler first came to town, and I think that's kind of an interesting story.
Give me a date on that. Will you start there?
So he comes in. So I knew Old Testament. They had told me, he's returning, you know, he's returning and he wants to do, you know, something in there. Our COO told me. So I knew he wanted to do sports. I'd always looked at this sports board fellowship, this, you know, board specialist in sports clinical. And so I prepared for him. So I did all that. And basically what that does for physical therapists is it gives you some credential in our world of not only being, you know, for example, I'm one of them. I've just renewed this year. There's 53 in the state of Tennessee. It's just a board specialist in sports. So clinical sports, but then also field coverage. And I thought if I could get field coverage, you know, and he wants to do anything, I wanted to be doing stuff. I wanted to be on the field doing stuff. So he returns in the fall.
Like literally on the sideline.
On the sideline.
Yeah.
On the sideline. So fall of 2015, he comes back, and I think, man, this is the dude. We're on at Bradley, we're on at Walker, we're, you know, anywhere we want to be. And we actually came to a game up here, a Walker Bradley game, and we didn't try to go on the field, but it was known that there was
this Wojtek country at that time?
Correct. And rightfully so. He'd spent 20 years supporting them and giving his time and giving his money, but that was his world, and we weren't going to come up there. So it was kind of loud and clear. We had to figure out what we were doing, you know, at that point. Well, his dad, Mr. Spangler, obviously is the principal at Ocoee. So he says, we need someone desperately.
It's our principal, man.
He said, we were there. So that during that time in
2015, I'm still at Ocoee. Are you at Ocoee?
2015?
Yeah.
No, I probably just left there. I was the SRO there for a couple years.
Yeah.
Okay. So we go meet with him, and he said, we need someone now. And so we go, in that first fall, we grind it out. We do all the Ocoee football and went to all the games, you know, did whatever. That spring and summer come around.
I might have been there. I don't know.
It would have been, it was 15. So 16 rolls around, and I'm sitting in a class in Nashville, and it's kind of a re-up on what they call emergency response for the athletes, spine boarding and fractures and all the concussions and all that.
I'll tell you how I'll know. Is Lorenzo White the quarterback?
You know, the first quarterback I can remember, I don't think so, but the first, I feel like I would have remembered that. The first quarterback I can remember at Ocoee was,
if he pulls out a middle school quarterback, I'm going to
Eli. I'll do it. It's Eli. Why can't I think of his name? Chad's son.
Yeah,
Eli's Denton.
Daniel Denton.
Daniel
There you
Denton.
go. Then,
so first quarterback's Daniel
no,
Denton.
that's the year after I left and went back. I was a detective at that point.
Yeah, it was him for sure, because he
year,
could throw it a mile,
yeah.
but he would roll around.
He was a shooter, buddy.
And, he's slinging it.
He's slinging it.
He
ain't never seen a matchup he didn't like.
No, and it was kind of like old Bazooka Joe. You know, if 30 yards will do it, 50 would be safe. You know, he'd throw it all the way down.
Yeah.
And, I really thought he was going to be a stud up here, but I guess he ended up rolling into receiver and having a real good year as a receiver.
And he was going to make it a real problem for us one year because he had went away from playing quarterback And then he decided again, I want to play quarterback. And he was he was going to make a difficult decision, kind of like Josh Heupel's going through right now. One of those situations. And I mean, there were conversations behind closed doors of like, golly, oh man, what are we going to do here? I don't know. And one day Daniel Denton walked in the office and he said, hey guys, he probably didn't say guys. He probably said, hey coach. And I don't remember his exact words, but pretty much, hey, I've decided we got a pretty good quarterback, but I think I'm your best receiver. I think I could, I think I want to compete to be your best receiver. And we're like, we respect your decision. Like, and then when he leaves, we're like,
yeah.
Thank God, man.
Yeah. Do you remember the COVID year playing at Bradley?
And he was our best receiver.
And he gets contact traced and he can't dress out. And someone's wearing his jersey.
Yeah.
And that's when Chad was doing the film.
Reed. Gibson.
And
Gibson.
they give him credit for every catch on. They were calling his name and all that.
Yeah.
That was goal line stand, go for it. Or I remember seeing Kyler line up and thinking, this dude in front of Kyler's not stopping him. And then they pulled him off and put the kicker on and missed the field goal and lost it. That was COVID year, wasn't it? That was.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game that Daniel Denton is not. They pull him out of. I think it was on. I think Thursday we were having a meal after the walkthrough, and they pulled Daniel Denton to the side. It's still now. Our administration and all those people that I work for, they were just doing what they
had to do.
Yeah. But like in general,
mm-hmm.
I can say out loud now that that's the stupidest time I've ever lived through. That's another conversation. But this kid didn't get to play his senior year at a crosstown rival because somebody in the neighborhood of him had COVID. And we, at the time we could have showed you where he was sitting, where they were sitting. He didn't even meet those rules.
Right.
But the powers that be says you ain't playing, buddy. And
you remember McMinn up at Dobbins Bennett that year? Got on the bus, had that year. McMinn that year had the kid that was going to Virginia Tech that jumped out of the pool and everyone went crazy.
Bryce Goodner, yeah.
And they had that running back going to Western Carolina.
Jalen something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. They were a problem.
They go all the way up to Dobbins Bennett. They're on the field to play and they canceled the game.
Yep.
And that's because they thought he may have been on the bus or something like that. That was a weird time.
I know, man.
That was
the healthiest people. We're talking about the healthiest group of people in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
that was a weird
how do we get on that?
I don't know.
Oh, Spangler came into Ocoee Middle School.
Yes, he came into Ocoee Middle. So 16 comes around. I'm sitting at this class, this re-up class, and I'm thinking, man, we're not going to get on the sideline again. I mean, that's just again, it is rightfully Dr. Wojtek's world, and so I'm thinking, who else in the area could we go talk to? So I'm thinking Meggs or Polk or whatever, and so I send my boss a text, said, let's call Polk and Meggs and see if they need any help. So she calls Polk first.
Do they teach this in physical therapy school?
The thinking around
how to be a salesman.
This is self-preservation. This is how do you get to do the things that you want to do?
Yeah.
And so she calls Coach German, Ronnie German. He said, this is an answer to prayers. We've been needing someone.
There you go.
So all of a sudden, he and I, Spangler and I I was teaching a class at UTC at the time too. So I was teaching a class Wednesday. Kids are young. You can do whatever you want to do. Thursday, we were up here. And then Friday, we were at Polk County. And we did that for a couple years before all the Pie Center stuff started kind of rolling around. And it became obvious that if you were willing to build out a space, the bargaining chips may be an athletic trainer in Bradley and Walker Valley. And so he and I went over to Johnston Woods and gave a presentation to the school board at a retreat. And I'm talking, we had like a rollout TV and we had our parts memorized and, and all this. And
you practiced before you went?
Well, God, we practiced. I'll tell you how much. So Johnston, I go to Broad Street and Johnston Woods is, a property of Broad Street. And so I went in there the night before and I got the TV right and then made sure my computer would plug in and all that. And I don't know if our speech did it so much as the center saying, yeah, we'll build out a, 8,000 square foot space or whatever. Yeah. And so at that point he came, he had to, his brother's the principal. He's hometown guy. He's got to be the face here. Well, I kept going to Polk. And so I would do home games with Polk and then they'd bounce me around. And there was one year, like COVID year, I couldn't go. We didn't have enough athletic trainers. So I would bounce around and we had Lee going out. Well, then Lee couldn't go. So there was maybe one year I didn't go to Polk, but I always knew that I knew someone that I could call and maybe get back involved. And so that's really where do you go if you're going to open a clinic? There was only one at the time outpatient physical therapy clinic in Polk County. I liked those odds, and I knew somebody to call. Yeah. And that's literally the reason I ended up at Polk.
Yeah.
Now, do you have an athletic background? Did you play back in the day?
Yeah. I mean, I played, I've probably lived my whole life as, not great, but better than average at most things.
Does that mean he's pretty good?
Yeah, no.
He's probably a gamer. He probably could play.
No, you're wrong.
What are we playing?
Well, tell us something, man.
So I played, somehow or another, I ended up playing a lot of soccer and then football. And so football in the fall and soccer in the spring. I'll tell you my dad knew nothing about soccer. Nobody, the generation above us didn't know anything about soccer. My dad's an educator. He's an elementary school PE teacher, retired a few years ago.
Now, where are you from?
In Oak Ridge.
Okay.
I know you guys were talking about Oak Ridge this week. So he gets a job in the county, in Anderson County. Oak Ridge is Oak Ridge City in Anderson County. And they say, you're the gym teacher at Lake City. And also, congratulations, you're the girls soccer coach at Clinton High School. And I don't know that he like do what,
Lord.
And it, non-negotiable, that's
he still went to work.
That's the job. Yeah. So he showed up and learned it and somewhere along the way loved it. And so that would have been, I guess, early 90s. Cause he worked at a machine shop when I was born. He didn't get even a teaching job till I guess I was already, who knows, early 90s. And so he just loved it. And so my sister and I really at that point, I don't remember him ever even really promoting much else. I was okay. Like I said, it's, maybe better than average, but not great. My sister was really good. My sister had probably multiple D1 offers to go play. And, but anyway, that's.
Did you play club ball in high school or was that a thing?
Well, you really couldn't if you played, multiple sports. So I think freshman year, we played with the same group of guys up to about freshman year. And freshman year, everyone's kind of going off to do their own thing. We had some kids from Farragut, some kids from Clinton. There was a pretty large group from Oak Ridge. There were some kids from Kingston. There's a couple kids from McMinn County. And so we had a team that would go around. But that kind of after freshman year, you really can't, I don't know, you just can't really do it all, especially if, football's year round. So, but.
Well, the reason why I asked that question is because to be an athlete and to be with a physical therapist who can talk the game, talk the craft, talk the details, not just tell you what to do, makes all the difference in the world. So to know how our boys bonded with you, it's a big deal. It's more than just you taking care of them physically. It's also you stimulating them, mentally, being able to talk the game, and also, truly take care of them emotionally. I know I don't doubt one bit you do that for everybody, but it's personal to us,
right.
And we saw that connection. And Sarah took Seth most of the time, but she would always come back so encouraged. And I sense that you have to know the game in order to treat the whole athlete that way. So when you say things like, and you're deflecting like, I was all right, but so did you go play anywhere else? Did you have any aspirations?
I didn't even attempt.
Or did this come along and you were like, that's how I'm going to stay connected to the game. Did it happen that way at all?
So I knew somehow that I wanted to be in a community where you knew the people in the community, people knew you were able to kind of care for the people in the community. I didn't necessarily, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I don't remember ever making any definitive plans. It's one of the things that was just in the works, and that's what was, written for me. I had no plan coming. I was really kind of an underachiever academically. And do y'all know much about Oak Ridge? Oak Ridge,
we don't like Oak Ridge down here.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's all I can go on.
There's not a lot of people like Oak Ridge up there. It's a real unique place in that, it's really a unique place. We talk all day about that, but it's a real unique place. But you have kids that are so incredibly smart that you just are never going to be in their league. They're the daughter and sons of physicists and these people that are inventing things that are saving the world and so
or destroying the world,
or destroying the world,
or saving the world.
Yeah. I felt average, I think, to a lot of extent. I felt safe. I felt comfortable in kind of a normal role. My parents expected B's probably because that's all I ever gave them. And they may not have thought I could have done better than that. And so that's what, if I almost got an A, we got to roll this back. I did way too much work. I knew I couldn't get a C. So I kind of hit that sweet spot. My only plan was to go to physical therapy school. And I don't know that I even knew how competitive it was. My sister had a scholarship to play soccer at UTC. At the time, UTC had these dorms that you could have your own room. I knew that sounded appealing. There was a lot of people from Oak Ridge. I was close with a lot of, probably like your boys, close with a lot of people from Oak Ridge that I'd grown up with, and we were all going to UTC. I never even toured it. I knew they had a physical therapy school. I knew I could go down there with my friends. My sister was already there, and that was good enough for me.
I can't wait till Seth hears this.
Because
that's how he picked Tennessee Tech. My buddies are going there.
That's it.
I can major in what I want to major in.
Seems like I'll figure it out when I get there. That's what I'm saying. I've been a slow roller. I'll figure it out. And I get down there and I don't know how to play the rules. I don't know. In Oak Ridge, I've been coddled into this environment my whole life. I know how much to study. I know how much not to study. I know kind of where I need to be. Well, down there, I don't know the rules. So I do what they tell me to do. They give me this sheet of paper. I study these things. This test is on this. It's all laid out for you. And that's what I try to tell these high school kids. College is not hard. It is, you have to just do what they tell you to do. And all of a sudden I'm getting A's. And I remember my parents being like, how is this happening? I beats me, I read what they tell me and I do the thing. Turns out those kids I thought were really smart. They were just doing their homework, the whole time they were studying and doing their homework.
Yep.
But that's how I went to UTC, but I had I knew I wanted to go to physical therapy school. I thought if I got down there, there'd be some kind of incentive. Oh, he's one of our own. He's gone to undergrad here. They didn't, there's no part of the application that's that. And so I didn't get in my first time. I applied really early and I got waitlisted or maybe I didn't even, I don't think I even got waitlisted. I bombed the interview. I'm a person who talks a lot. I try to have these questions that I was going to answer. That's what it was. And I, when they weren't asking me those questions, I kept trying to force them back to it. And I bombed the interview. I didn't even get waitlisted, but it didn't hurt my feelings because it would have been a year earlier than what I was going to be ready for it. So I apply 6 months later and I get in. And so I got in down there and was able to get through it. But
in that process, when do you start doing like internships that put you like in the action?
It's a 3-year program, and the summer after your first year, you're in a clinic.
When did you have that first moment where you actually saw like, I don't know, that broken bone or that whatever, and like you consciously had to make the choice, can I really handle this? Can I make this decision in this moment for the rest of however long, I get myself into this? Did you have a moment like that?
Yes. And in the clinic, you don't really, it's a pretty structured environment. The people that come to you have pretty been well, vetted. It's not like on the sideline where somebody's hurt. First day I showed up for a Coe game, a kid broke his femur, and I'm like, my gosh, this is what life is like here, and, but I think the biggest realization that I had was that it's really not that, for the level of what you have to get through to get to that program. It's really not a complicated thing. We're not doing surgery. We're not, it's just really not, all roads for the most part lead to this right here, just kicking your knee.
And you're a first responder, man. You're doing surgery of the mind because you're letting people know that they're going to be okay.
And that's where that's where I enjoy it. Yeah. And that's what I try to tell the students is that come through is that I really enjoy people. I really enjoy their stories. I really enjoy getting to know where they come from, and I don't know that we accomplish a whole lot that we set out to do, but when they leave, I know them. And your two boys were really special. That whole group that came through, and I think this is all the same grade, Kyler, Seth, Taylor Cannon, and I remember seeing them, and my kids, so that'd have been, I guess my kid's still been in elementary school, my oldest. And I remember thinking, man, if I could get him in a group of boys that are just motivated and have integrity and are just quality dudes like that, well, everything else would be okay. And I kind of credited that a lot with this school, with Walker Valley. It just seemed like every time I was up here, it just seemed like a good culture. It just seemed like, a good group of kids. And so that's happening. That's coming through now. And I've, like I said, I have a freshman here, and he's got a group of friends that have played basketball since they were third grade together on travel teams, and it's kind of worked out again.
Yeah, I know Coach Campbell, Coach Patterson, they're excited about this freshman crew that's coming up.
I don't, I look at them. I've seen them play a long time, and they look good to me. I don't know that, and all the parents are going to get mad if I say this, but I don't know that there is a Zach Davis in the group. I don't know if there's a Turner Clayton in the group. I don't know if there's an Isaac Sausville in the group, but I think there will be. And I think all of them are, I think they could be. All of them are they fit the prototype for Walker Valley, 6'1" to 6'4", kind
that's
of
a little high right
kids
there.
that we got to get.
We got some size this year.
I was going to go about 5'10" and a half to 6'1" and a half.
5'10" to 6'1".
We just label them.
I think they're going to be big. I don't know what kind of basketball players they'll be, but there's some kind of genetic miracle. My son's probably 6'1" and a half. This is about the extent of my genetics, and so.
Well, we'll list him at 6'3" and a half.
6'3". But there's some twins that will be tall. I don't know. Landon Davis. He's Jason Davis's son.
No.
Jason Davis.
Yeah.
He's 6'8".
Yeah, I didn't realize
Landon,
he had a boy here.
At some point, Landon is going to be a monster, and that
hope
will
it's
occur,
in high school,
and it'll be hopefully it's in high school, but I think they'll be all right.
All right, so let me ask you this question since you said that. Tracking with, let's go with this last group of, you mentioned the Isaacs and the Zachs and the Turners, and I watched those boys get into gyms by themselves or with their brothers or with their daddies since they were in 5th grade.
Yeah.
They're still in there in 7th grade. I know they were in there in 9th grade. 10th grade, they're still coming in. 11th grade, the summer before their senior year, they're still coming in the gym on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for this run that they made it all the way to the championship game, because that Kyler Seth group, that was special. That was unique.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you saying that. And they loved each other.
Mm-hmm.
But this last group loved each other and gosh, they put in so much work as individuals. And then you just saw them come together. And I mean, I wish we could get a do-over on that championship game and just like, hey, let's play the second, third, fourth quarter and then like play another quarter and just get rid of the first one.
Was there fear, do you think? I mean, I watched it. I mean, was there fear of like, here's some top 10 ranked dudes? And
I don't think so. I think they just were that good, that fast, that athletic.
Yeah.
And we didn't make an adjustment quick enough.
Yeah.
Because Will made an adjustment. Because you'll look at the second, third, and fourth quarter. They didn't let up. They kept pressing.
Right.
They were still just as athletic and just as skilled. And our guys just figured out how to handle that pressure.
Yeah.
And so I just, gosh, what a start. Because they were that good. I mean, they're nationally ranked for a reason.
Right.
You know, but I say all that. So I come back to your freshman crew. Are they in the gym on their own, doing their thing?
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it special.
Every one of them, every one of them is.
That's
and
cool.
And every one of them is, like you said, has done that since early on. And it some of that stuff sometimes, not in their, the seniors that just graduated case, sometimes I think there can be like an arms race. And I'm sure you guys have seen that as your boys have come up through school, that this kid's going to this place and we better all go to do this and whatever. I think it becomes almost unhealthy of like, do you love it or do you just feel like you're getting outrun by someone else? My perception is this group of guys, they just love it. They'll leave here, they'll practice up here 2 hours. And I'd say 70% of them will go to the Y and play another 2 hours at the Y just because they want to keep playing, and hopefully it stays that way.
They play in multiple sports, or they just play in basketball?
For the most part, most of them are all basketball players.
Because that's where you run into.
Yeah.
Because you got, even on like the Kyler Seth crew, you got kids, and they're not in the gym like the Isaac Zach group. But there's a lot of them that are somewhere putting in work.
Right.
It may not just be in round ball. You know what I'm saying?
They'll, last 2 years at Coe, all of them decided they were going to play tennis. I don't know that any one of them had ever held a tennis racket.
I love that.
And by the end of 8th grade, if they played a real tennis player, they got smoked. But for the most part,
they're athletes.
Middle school
but that's high school tennis.
You
middle
can
school and high
hang
school
with
tennis.
it. And I would love to see him keep doing that. But I can speak for my son. There was a group of 4 guys last year that in the 4x8 made it all the way to state, and I think they'll try to keep that up here. I think they'll try to keep doing that in track. So I don't know if he'll play tennis, but I love tennis. I thought it was really fun to watch, and these kids would roll up with multiple rackets, and our guys are over there like flicking each other in the ear and hitting bees with Walmart rackets, and you pretty much knew, okay, this one's not going to go our way.
Yeah, that's fun. Caleb was our first to go do something and different. Well, I guess I don't know. Seth played soccer and cross country, but Caleb went and played tennis, and so it was just like it was my job as dad to go to Tinsley and let's figure out how to hit this thing over the net.
Yeah.
But then to watch him, I mean, as a freshman and as a sophomore.
He played in high school?
He sure did.
Did he? Right?
He was all district as a freshman. And then him and Cash Coates were doubles partners, and they were killing it. And then like Caleb was like, I'm done. I'm going to go play golf, and then he just threw himself into golf because that's who he is.
Yeah.
And just, so I don't know. Our family's life changed forever when we started golfing because I am the worst golfer you have ever seen who has played in some of the nicest golf courses possible. But my boys just keep getting better, so I'll spend 4 hours with them for sure.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of just
having
athletic kids.
That, like, when they get to this age, it's been a relief because, going back to that, use that term arms race. When you're in elementary school, I mean, you guys have been in that elementary school basketball league. It's insane. Parents are getting escorted out. I mean, it's just because you don't know what your kid is going to, or go even further back, T-ball. You don't know what this kid's going to be, but this kid can catch, and he can sometimes hit. Oh, he's our first baseman. This is a D1 kid, and it's the only kid on the team that can catch 80% of the balls. So you're trying to figure out, like, who even is my kid? It has been the biggest relief at this age to just see him, and you pretty much know who that kid's going to be, and And for the most part, the kids are comfortable and they've settled into whatever role they're going to be. To me, that is the big benefit of this whole thing. I mean, I have no aspiration for my son, and I don't know that he's even thinks this way of, are you going to try to play beyond this or whatever? I want him to come here. I want him to play with a group of guys like that group that graduated. Was that 22? They graduated.
Mm-hmm.
That whole group graduated. Yeah. Have a group that you come through that you guys just live for each other. You take care of each other. You do whatever, and it just happens to be you have this sport that binds you to something. That to me is really, I think, more of what life is, and it's been a relief to get out of. I mean, you remember how end of the season, where y'all going to play AAU? Where y'all going to do whatever? People aren't talking. People are, it's just this, it's low level human existence of deceiving. and I feel like everyone's kind of getting through that because they're comfortable. Okay, I know who my kid is now. We'll let him live life. That's been my perception.
Who'd you turn into as a dad in the stands? Are you a coaching dad up there?
Are
you trying to play it cool?
I try to do the book. 2 reasons. Number one, you get in free. I'm up probably $300 in AAU because I always, and people think, what blows me away is like last year, people that, thank you for doing that. You're like, are you kidding me? I'm getting in free. You guys just paid $20 to get into, the convention center. And
yeah,
I'm
but you could pay me $300. I'm not doing the book.
See, the book is light work because
do you also do it so you don't lose your mind up in the stands?
You have to be, in my mind, if you sit at the table, you have discarded any subjectivity. You are there to follow and officiate the rules of the game. And so I need that because if I'm sitting in the stands, something irks you. And then next minute it irks you a little more. Next thing you know, you're losing your mind, and
that's you.
I mean, not to some extent. Maybe
he's putting
not,
his mask on.
Much.
He's covered it up.
So I like to sit at the table, but I won't say I'm not up there fighting anyone, but I do.
But that's the difference. Is like I'm not doing the book, but I can
keep
like
cool.
I'm the guy that's sitting next to my buddy Duggan saying, "Hey man, it's okay, bro. So you're good, man. Just chill, just relax."
Well, you think your baby's been cheated in some way? I mean, there's no someone must right this wrong. My baby's been cheated.
Now I'm not going to lie and say there's never been any emotion stir, but I can pretty quickly be like, "That's why we're here, man.
Yeah.
Figure that out."
And a little bit of like complete sight. The calls are equally terrible both sides. Like in an AAU league, you got this 20-year-old girl that is terrified for her life, getting yelled at parents. She's making bad calls either way. It's not just she didn't wake up and say, "I'm going to get this kid today."
You know how hard it would be to referee? He does. You know how hard it would be to referee a basketball game?
It'd be terrible.
I don't care what level it is.
I'm amazed that anyone shows up to the Bradley County Elementary School Basketball League.
I would be the guy getting yelled at because you're letting people travel because they're in the second grade. Yeah. That'd be me.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yo, sit down and shut up. Like, let this boy run.
Yeah.
He got it like a football. I'm letting him go.
I'd be the same way.
I do it for riches in heaven. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to do that job, and I don't know.
I've got another son that's a 7th grader, and he is his own dude. I mean, wants to hunt and fish from the day he came out. Well, I didn't really grow up doing that, and I've had to learn it to help fulfill him, and that's all he thinks about. And he plays football at Ocoee, and he'll wrestle, and he'll throw the discus where he's a hefty guy. He's 7th grade, so he's 12-year-old, true 12-year-old, and true 7th grader. He wears size 14 shoes.
Have you been bringing his birth certificate around?
5'9". Yeah. It just seems like we're in the age of reclass, and this is a January birthday, There was no way for him to go. He is a January birthday. He's just a
true
big old
seventh
dude. And he could probably do whatever he wants to do, but it won't probably include anything other than hunting or fishing or work. His life goal is to come here and do the program with the Wright brothers. And he has thought about that since
good goal,
third
man.
grade.
Did you tell him you know a guy?
Yeah. So I'm hoping he's still in that role and wants to take it. But so it's just been. I mean, you guys know it. It's just interesting. You get to know your kids as they get older, and you learn a little bit more of how you help them. What do I need to do to help him fulfill this? And I don't even carry a gun. I go in there and sit with him. And there was probably 3 years he shot probably 3 deer in the kneecap or the hoof. And my buddy whose farm we go to, he's looking at me and he's telling me he's
got a bunch of injuries.
Dude, y'all gonna have to practice before you get back out here. Like I can't, one's one thing, but I can't have the community knowing that we're injuring deer, maybe mortally, who knows, of die of a staph infection at some point. And you just feel like, I mean, it's kind of like basketball. You feel like this, I've got to give him this deer. I don't know. And sure enough, he starts shooting deer. And so that's what he's doing now. So, but he'll be here too. You'll get to know him. He shot one no joke, it had to have been in the foot. And I saw pick its leg up and run around and took off. We went and looked at it. We found a little piece of the hoof on the ground. And buddy, I think you shot him in the leg.
I just keep getting this cartoon image of your buddy pulling up and there's a deer walking around with a leg brace on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Got him with the ones we hand out at
just
clinic.
a bunch of wounded deer running around here.
Man, that's hilarious. So if we're having this conversation 10 years from now, what are you up to? You still out in Polk County?
It's like anything you guys do, in life, you number one, yes, I guess I better answer that. Yes, absolutely. The name of the company's Polk Physical Therapy. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, for the long haul.
But once you get comfortable, you can only shine something so much, and then it is what it is. And I'm really proud of the product that we've made. I think we do some different things. I think we, can't all be patient experience because I've asked them where they go to church. There's got to be value in what they do because number one, I'm not going to be there every minute to do everything. But I think we are starting to see a little bit of okay, here's why we've been successful and we're doing this. And we've added products that I only knew about because when I was at Center, I worked with European athletes and it just happened to be, it got cleared in the United States and we've brought one into Benton, Tennessee now. And so there's things like that I think we've got going. And I think that it will reach a point that I kind of felt 4 years ago that, okay, what do we do next? What is our next kind of challenge? And Polk County is incredible because it is, this just really fulfilling, wholesome rural place. But there's probably is a limit on, what the growth is. We may be there. I don't, we may be there. We're bigger than anyone's ever been in physical therapy in Polk County. And it may be that we decide to expand that out. I don't know. I hope. I mean, I got 4 years. I got one trying to go to college. I got 18 months till one's going to need to drive. I better come up with something. But
yeah, what's the? And this is going to seem like a random question, but it's. I'm trying to ask right into what you're talking about. If you could put if you could put your finger on that injury, what's the kind of injury you dealing with more than anything else? What's filling up your schedule? And
is it different between girl athletes and boy athletes?
So girl, yeah, absolutely. Girls, almost just as predictable as it could be, a girl athlete is going to have patellar issues at some point. If a female athlete from 10 to through high school goes to the orthopedic surgeon, she's going to have patellar tracking issues. Same reason their knee hurts is the same reason that their incident rate of ACLs is, substantially higher. Boys are a little different. Boys will get kind of the same stuff. Boys get a lot of shoulder things. Boys get, ACLs. They're a little more probably evenly distributed, but girls are really, really heavy in knee and I mean, I'd say that's where you'd point your finger.
Okay, but is that what's filling your schedule up, or is it grandma getting her knee replaced?
So when I was seeing your boys, everyone I saw was probably 23 or younger.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get ready to leave, I didn't know what does life look like outside of that, and it is. I think we've got the most even mix. I didn't think we'd see any young athletes. I thought, with I'd spent 3 years making a list for everything that was going in the new place.
Mm-hmm.
Who would not want to go there? We see a little bit of everything. I mean, it's from
so there's no
grandma,
real bread
back,
and butter happening.
And fortunately, it is not, because I feel like that feels healthier to me, that there's a wide range of things.
Gotcha.
And a wide range of referral sources. And
so what's this thing that just got approved from Europe and now you got it?
So we used to have, it was the Spanish tennis players, and they would come back, they would leave. It always used to drive Spangler crazy, because they would leave and they'd go to whoever was in their hometown, and they would come back with this plan, and they would come back and they'd say, we want you to do TECAR on my elbow or TECAR on my shoulder or whatever. I remember one day sitting with a Spanish guy, and we Googled it. And I said, what is it? He said, I have no idea, but they do it and it feels good. So we Google it. And I said, man, I don't know what this is, but I can tell you for sure we don't have it here. And so fast forward probably 4 years, was last December. I'm down in Atlanta. There's a speaker from Birmingham up, and Birmingham guys, when they come into, that's all the Dr. Andrews guys. When they come in, they bring all the reps, they set up, and here is this thing. And so I walk back there and I put my hand on the plate, and she does it on my elbow, and it is like the most incredible thing you've ever felt. And what it is it's radio frequency. And so you do it in 2 ways. TECAR is an acronym, but basically you do it in 2 ways, one with a insulator and one that you have a pole, and it literally goes from one to a neutral ground. And do y'all remember back in the day, ultrasound was therapeutic ultrasound, and the idea was that if we could do this ultrasound, you'd generate some kind of heat response and you'd shunt blood to an area and it'd heal it. Never worked. Never went deep enough.
Oh yeah, I remember that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a popular thing for physical therapists to do.
I don't know.
And even when I came in, the docs would still recommend it, and it just they just went out. This does exactly that. And so for whatever reason, we're designed to be from 300 to 1,000 kilohertz. Your cells will open up, and you'll have this exchange rate, and that's how you heal. You bring blood and oxygen in, you get rid of the bad stuff, and you have this accelerated exchange rate. And that's what this does. So it doesn't really do anything magic. What it does is it basically accelerates your healing response at a deeper level than what you would have done it. And because it doesn't add too much technology to add like a TENS to it or a muscle contraction or whatever, that's on it too. And so you get the feel good effect of that. But what it feels like, this deep soothing heat, it's been the most incredible thing ever. And so if you watch, it's starting to come around now. Now you heard it first in Benton, Tennessee, but like if you turn on QB on last season, Kirk Cousins is on there. They're working on his Achilles. He's torn his Achilles.
Yeah.
He calls it RF. I got to go in for RF. And he's sitting there talking to her. That's radio frequency. And they're doing it on his Achilles. There's another episode, Deebo Samuel, and they're doing it on him. And
so this approval you're talking about, is this a FDA thing?
Correct.
What about it would make it not approved?
I think the more rule is, why would it not be approved? Then it gets here and 80% of people develop bone cancer or something, and they, oh shoot, we should have looked into that a little more. I think it's just why things are generally safe in the United States is we've got a real strong vetting process. So all that does is say that we can use it. Insurance ain't going to pay for it. And so I'll tell you kind of why that is important to us is that we have some real low paying insurances because we're now the only physical therapist in Polk County. Whole county, we're the only physical therapist in Polk County.
You run them out of town.
We run them out of town.
Okay.
The other guy was near retirement, and I think
I'm just playing.
So in my mind, ethically, we have to be available to people, to some extent. If we're going to be there, we have to be, available. So if I take, this insurance that pays us, kind of what we need to meet our budget, and this insurance that says if somebody walks in that door, we're losing money, we need something to level that out. And so if we have a, cash service that happens to be this incredible device, then that's kind of how we level that out. And I think that's how we've been able to grow and maintain. And we added another product that I heard about on a Joe Rogan podcast, and it's called the Newbie. And so we recently were TVFCU, they do the Idea Leap grant. Have you followed that any?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Because that was, I was on the news and the radio, and you didn't hear my exclusive Steve Hartline interview or any of that. It's TVFCU puts up an insane amount of money, $250,000, North Georgia, Ocoee region, Chattanooga. You apply, there may be 300 people apply with a proposal for how you're going to use that money. They whittle it down. There's a period you have to get a video in. They whittle it down over about 7 months. They whittle it down to 5. If you make 5, you go to the TV station, you go to WRCB in Chattanooga, you do a live read, in front of a judge's panel in the studio, and then you go to the screen room and they call you back out, and they tell you what you got. And so we got second place in it.
Get out of here, man.
Wow.
And so I used that money a month ago to buy this other machine that I think which is covered within insurance. Most of the functions of it are. And it's going to be, I think, another game changer for us. And
that's the Newbie that you're talking about?
It's called a Newbie.
Yeah.
And again, it's probably really only available in Benton, Tennessee, and in pro athletes. And
we're not talking red light therapy.
We're not, not red light. Yeah, none of that. And it is. So DC Current has been known for a long time to really recruit muscle well, and it's got a weird response on your autonomic nervous system that some days you could probably wake up and you could touch your toes, and then other days you wake up and you can't even barely get to your knee. Why all of a sudden did your muscle just shrink? Well, your muscle didn't shrink. Your autonomic nervous system is saying, for whatever reason, hey, you got to protect yourself, and you've ran the wheelbarrow all day yesterday and you can't move and whatever. DC Current has a real strong
me in my backyard because
effect.
Life, man.
Well,
one day I'm good, and the next day
me.
I'm not.
That's
exactly
me.
what happened.
And there'll be 3 weeks I feel great, and there'll be 2 weeks in clinic I'm scooting on a stool because my legs hurt, my feet hurt, my back hurts.
So you're about to give me my answer.
So okay. This is your answer. For whatever reason, the DC Current does that. Well, the Russians knew about it. They experimented with it, but DC Current straight up will burn you. And you remember when we put the pads on Kyler's knee? You may remember that.
Is that called not. TENS?
Yeah, but that's an AC current, and an AC is good, but because it's alternating, it's always contracting. So there's the middle ground is if you can take a DC current and you can pulse it, it doesn't burn you, and you can move through it. And so you literally, people are coming in. We're only about 3 weeks into this, so we're still kind of learning it. But you come in, and we map it. And so you put one on, and it's like the Green Mile. I take a sponge and the other electrode, and I move it around, and you'll feel one spot that the patient will be, smack. So their back hurts. So it is within the realm of that. They're smacking at you. Oh gosh, that feels like that's all the way down to the bone. Well, that's where you want to be. That's for whatever reason. That's where the issue is. So you put the other pad on there, and then you have them do all their exercise with that E-stim on. And the whole time they're doing it, hey, can you tolerate a little more? There's 3 rules. Number 1, the patient's in charge. You tell me what you want. Number 2, the more is better. And number 3, we'll only turn it up, like when it's not going to hurt you. We'll only turn it up as you feel appropriate. Mm. So we keep turning it up. Hey, you think you could do 3 more? We'll do more. And it feels like somebody is grabbing you with electricity and just almost holding you. But the more they keep doing that, they're able to move a little more. We'll take it off people, and they'll lay their hands, palms on the ground, because there's no tension. You've calmed the nervous system enough to where there's no tension. Wow. And that is a big thing now for like pro teams too. The other aspect of it is you could put pads on the bottom of your feet, you put them on your neck, and you just run it for 20 minutes. And people that are just nervous or anxious or having a bad day or whatever, it bombards that system to the extent that it calms them down. Mm. And so half of this is telling people, like, this is not, there is science backing behind. This is not magic. This is not something this is just, there are things in this world that allow your body to be the best that it was designed to be. And if we can bring them into clinic, then I don't have to be corporate PT. I can be whatever the heck I want to be. And that's the stuff that interests me. That's the little devices that interest you. And that's why I think eventually that could help a lot of people. And eventually I think that could be a good thing for Cleveland or Etowah or wherever.
So what if I live on the north side of Bradley County. If I didn't come to you, where would I have to drive to get those 2 products?
You couldn't get Newbie Atlanta, or there's one person in Nashville. Tech-R, I have no idea.
So Newbie, I'm not getting anywhere near here.
Newbie, you wouldn't get anywhere near here. I think there is a guy, he doesn't use the machine that I use, but he uses one. It's Tech-R, but it's another brand manufacturer. It's only a few people that are approved to make them. He's in Knoxville. But, when we got it, we started working with this guy and talking with him in Florida that is using a lot. Well, he's in Tampa, and he's got, all these people coming in that are affluent, and they're looking at stuff. And I asked him, I said, I think I'm a fool to have done this, because that one machine costs more than everything we put into that clinic to get going. And I said, I'm a fool to have done this, because I just don't, I don't want to be a salesman, and I don't think there's enough people here to do it. That's never been the case. From the day we plugged it in, if someone feels it helps them to the extent that it's incredible.
How about that?
And
where'd you say that was? Benton, Tennessee?
In Benton, Tennessee, right in between Delano and Benton. Yeah. I don't know if so. Have you ever met any of Dixon's Polk County cronies, his group?
No.
Frankie Lowry.
I've been told that Frankie Lowry and Larry Davis and all that crew is all that way.
They all graduated around this similar time. And of course, I just get to know them, in clinic. I don't, can't claim to have known them for a long time. They're just they're men. I don't know how you explain it other than they are men. They're principled. They're just driven, and they're men that you would want to be around, and they just happen to be hilarious. And they have a breakfast club at Ruby's every Tuesday morning,
buddy.
And there's 25 or 30 of them show up every week at Ruby's and probably tell the same stories. So after,
are you dropping in on that?
No, I can't. This is 60s and 70s.
Is there like a club you got to be in?
Era. I'll never make it. You
couldn't just sit.
I could
edge?
sit and watch, but I would never be in the inner circle. It is. It's just the most. It's the best. It's exactly the way you would imagine retirement. All your buddies once a week get together. You tell the same stories. One day, some dude comes in and says he's been on a podcast, and everyone's just, asking him about it. He was the biggest celebrity in Polk County after that dropped. And
John was?
Oh yeah. But they're all that way. They were telling. So when he was there, they all got telling stories about him and laughing about him. And they got telling when do you know Derek Davis? Do you know much of him?
I know of him.
They said when I guess John Dixon would bring like dates to basketball games. Larry would have Derek as a kid go over there and say, "Mommy wants to know when you're coming home." And he said it got to a point where, yeah, are you going to be my new mommy? Or they were telling this story in there the other day. And they said that he would end up standing up. He saw Derek walking over there and be like, "Don't come over here." But it's just the best guys. And that is, you talk about fulfilling to leave, they're not high school athletes. They're not college athletes or all that. It's been the most fulfilling thing ever just to be in that community and just to get to know people and
well said, sir. That's a big deal.
Feel like, and that's what I'm in it for.
So I take that back. I asked you, what are you doing in 10 years? Hey, in 40 years, are you going to be John Dixon at Ruby's?
I don't think I could.
With your buddies.
So I want to get that going now and with people, and nobody will. So Spangler and I for years, we've met at Old Fort at 6 a.m. on Saturdays, and we may go months and we go back and we call it the Dew Sweepers. There's only two members, me and him, and we sit at the same table and there needs to be more people in there doing that, and there needs to be, you see the group's old men. That's not just Ruby's. There's at the Old Fort. Yeah. There's certain,
there's
corners.
The Liars Table. Yeah. All that. That's pretty fun. Now is Ruby's,
Old 411 by Stoney's. Benton is, if you look at East Tennessee in general, you look at Brad, I heard Heartline say today, I can't remember what the year range was, but we'll be at 80,000 people in this town in a certain few years. Benton has to be the only place that has not seen any of that growth. If anything, it's gone smaller and smaller. And man, there's so much value in a Ruby's and a Stoney's and Rachel Brewer's. I've got to know the Brewer family real well. She has the drugstore. Everyone there is there because they want. Shorty's Flowers is another one. Everyone there is there because they want to be there and they love being there. And man, it has just been, you could draw comparisons to any other small town, and you think, why would they not be bigger? Why would they not have more? It's the best place. It's just been so, if you guys ever experienced burnout, like a state, maybe when you were 36 or whatever, but a state of burnout to where when you get to work,
I changed careers. Don't
yeah, well, I guess that's the point where like you can't even explain to somebody when you get to work, even logging into the clock in screen is the hardest thing, and not because you don't want to be there, just because it's just like it's so daunting to do every little thing. Mm-hmm. That went away when I went to Polk County, and I feel like good for you, man. That's awesome. Happier. I'm awesome. Better. My wife and I get to hang out all day, every day. It's just been the best thing ever. I feel so fortunate that we're able to provide for our kids, have a house, and do that every day, and that's been good. But
you're talking to the right guys, man. We love small town life, embracing it, trying to preserve it here in this town that's growing as fast as it is.
So that's scary, isn't it? And I'm not even from here, and I'm that's scary. And do you so when you said Oak Ridge, you said Brushy Mountain as part of your tour. So that's that's all where kind of where I grew up.
Am I right about like we could go through Oak Ridge to get to
Brushy you Mountain. Would. You'd either go to Harriman and Oliver Springs or you'd go to Oak Ridge. But either way, you got to get on the highway in Oliver Springs.
About the same.
Randy Watt couldn't believe we didn't know that. He told me that in the hallway. He was like, "How did y'all not know that you could make this happen?" You knew that? We have never had that conversation in our life.
Did I know where Oak Ridge was?
No, that we could combine that trip and make something happen.
Oh, well, we couldn't until the last year.
Well, we got to get back later.
Yeah, we'll get back to
when I grew up, it was in action. Yeah. And we went out
people?
there in high school.
You had people?
Yeah. Guy at my wedding, his dad was, and he's shared this story. I don't think he's embarrassed at it. I mean, everybody in town knew, but he was, to my understanding, was at some level of distributor and got rolled over on and hey, you're this federal charge and you're the guy that's, the name we were given and you're going to Brushy. And he went to Brushy and friend would talk about it a little bit. I never had the guts to ask his dad about it. And, but you could go into Frozen Head State Park and you could hike to the top of the mountain. And there was this cave, which was basically an rock overhang. And it was all sand underneath it. You camp underneath there. And the rumor was that's where James Earl Ray hid out when he escaped. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. And the top of that, you'd walk out of there, you go to a trail, you go top of this point, and there was one of those old fire towers. And this was, you could get all the way up in it. If you had the guts to climb it, you'd get all the way up in it. And from the top of that fire tower, you could look down this cove and you could see him walking around the yard at Brushy, just within that big stone wall, just walking around down there. Yeah. We did that a few times, go up there and camp out and just, look down in there.
Field trip.
There you go.
We took a field trip, but it was across the road from that was Morgan County Correctional. And it was, a normal place. And that's where we went.
That's what they built to essentially replace it.
I don't think it was, I think it was state. And I think that Brushy was federal.
No, they were both state.
Oh, they were both state? Okay.
I mean, Brushy was open while Morgan County was open for a little while, but it wasn't very long.
This guy was taking prisoners up to Brushy.
I mean, the same guys that we were dropping prisoners off to at Brushy became the same guys.
Yeah.
We'd see them at Morgan County. Hey.
Yeah. Morgan County was cool. We spent a whole day there. And I think how absurd it sounds, but like you go and you'd be like, you want to see my TV? And I'm like going in this guy's cell. And it looks like a clean place, Yeah. We ate in the cafeteria and spent a whole day with them.
Anybody riding bikes around, showing you around?
We just walked. Well, this wasn't at Brushy. You talking about Morgan County?
I'm talking about Morgan County. I used to get cracked up because in order to get to the intake facility, you had to drive through the gate. You had to be searched in. One guy took a 20-ounce Dr. Pepper from me. I still want to fight him. He didn't have to do that. But then the guard's going to get on a bicycle and he's going to lead you back around. You pass the max security rec yards. It's essentially just cages. But I used to get tickled because every time I'd roll the windows down and that guy'd be riding that bicycle and there was a prisoner over there. Every time I ever went, he'd yell at that guy the entire time. Get off that effing bike. Get off that effing bike. Like, he'd just be yelling it the whole time.
It was eye-opening. I mean, it was really, and I remember thinking it looked like a pretty forward-thinking place. They had classes. We went to an HVAC class.
It's a modern day prison. It's legit.
But I knew I wouldn't ever want to be in there.
Nope.
And
not even a little.
My grandmother. So I don't know if you pass Petros and you go up and over the mountain, there's area back in there. You got Windrock. And then you cross up over there and it kind of comes around the back way. There's a little coal community up there called Briceville. And then up there they had the Coal Creek War. Have you guys ever heard the Coal Creek War?
We study it in class.
Yep.
And so my grandmother's mother and all them are kind of buried up there where a lot of those guys were buried. And, and we'd go up there with her and kind of look around and whatever. But outside of Lake City and, I guess now it's Rocky Top. And, so Lake City was Coal Creek. And
that's I was about to say it used to be called Coal Creek.
Yeah.
That area,
and then they built Norris Dam. And I thought, riches are upon us if we can be known as Lake City, and Norris Dam's the first TVA dam. It's like 1928, they built this dam. I think, but
we love that place. We end our summers as a family, grabbing a pontoon and just hanging out. That's our place to go. Yeah.
So my first year out of UTC, we're going to move back to to Knoxville. I'm going to live in Oak Ridge. I'm going to live up, move up there. So I move up there, and it was kind of the same situation as the center. I knew a guy who staffed. I wanted to be in an orthopedic surgeon's office because I wanted to be kind of involved with young kids and all that. He said, well, we don't have anything here, but we own some satellite clinics, and you can go to that, but it's in La Follette. And so La Follette was only a county above where I grew up. So I thought, well, I'll take it because eventually I'll prove myself and I'll move back in. So I got to go to La Follette. Nobody's up there taking care of their football team at the time. So I got to go do all their sideline coverage. Had never even been to that emergency response of the athlete class. And I'm out there just kind of figuring it out. And they called that the every Friday, what I learned, or Thursday, they called it the Ohio Navy. And everybody from Cincinnati would come down Jellicoe Mountain, and they'd get off the exit, and they would come into Norris Lake because I guess it's a 4-hour trip maybe from Cincinnati.
Okay.
And they called
Norris,
that the Ohio
how close
Navy.
is Del Hollow from there?
Del Hollow would be the other way. Del Hollow's up above like Cookeville and.
Because my dad only took us on 2 vacations, Sarasota and Del Hollow Lake on a houseboat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we ever did growing up,
Del Hollow's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Ohio Navy.
From Ohio. I didn't tell you that part. Like,
well,
I'm from
I think
Ohio.
I remember Seth telling me that. And from Cincinnati area, right?
Yeah. We're from Middletown.
So that's not, it's really not too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adventure awaited.
Do you know much about Oak Ridge? Do y'all know much about, like, it's just a made up place.
I know
so you got the Clinch River. So what it was like growing up, you've got in the 50s and 60s, there's probably 100,000 people. They win state championships in 3 sports a year, all the way through maybe to the 90s. So in the 90s, everything is slowing down. The plants, we call them the plants, are slowing down. There's rumor that K-25 is going to close. Everything's going. And I remember feeling so fortunate. My mother was a nurse at Methodist Hospital in town. My dad was he was PE teacher. And I remember thinking, like, we're safe. We don't have to worry about that. But it dropped and dropped and dropped. And I think my dad was telling me it bottomed out around 2016 with like 20-something thousand people. So my whole life was kind of growing up was kind of this allure of what has been, and kind of this apathy of like it's just, and that's my experience. I can only speak for myself, but like even in the 90s, Oak Ridge had, there's probably 5 or 6 people that went big D1 careers, and a couple of them went to the NFL and all that. Well, they're just not like what they used to be, and it just was kind of a weird thought. But you've got the Clinch River, which is Milton Hill Lake now. You've got that valley. And then on the other end of that valley, so you can't get in there. We call it, that's DOE property, Department of Energy. You can't get in there. In that other valley, you've got, what was X10, Y12, and I guess ORNLs back in there. And that was, when I was a kid, you could drive pre 9/11, you could drive through there. After 9/11, they walled it off. So you can't really be in there. Well, then you got another ridge. Well, that ridge is closely guarded. You don't even want to be walking in the woods. We'd hear these stories of gun turrets that would pop up and get you. So the town really starts from that other valley and then the other ridge. Well, over that other ridge is Oliver Springs. It's taken. What the government acquired was the side of that ridge and that valley and the other valley. So the whole town had to be up the valley. That's where all the buildings were. And that's the Oak Ridge Turnpike that runs through there. Well, then you've got state streets. Like I lived on Nebraska. Every main road off the road for like 8 miles is purposefully spread out, I guess. So if it gets bombed, the whole town doesn't go up. So you could pretty much everything connected on that side. So there wasn't a person I knew growing up had a good yard, because every one of us was on the edge of this. I mean, you'd play basketball and you knew you were going to jog down a hill to go get it. But you could ride your bike anywhere. If you had a bike, you could be anywhere in town, because you could be 7 miles, because every neighborhood connected and everything was connected. So I grew up in Nebraska. everything around me was an inn. Well, there was also a New York. Well, the New York were the older houses. They were the war houses, the A's and the B's and the C's and everything. And so you could almost, there was like a social hierarchy on kind of what letter you were. Wisconsin was the physicist and the orthopedic surgeons and all the people out there. Wyoming was war houses. And so Wyoming W's were, different. So it just was a weird way of categorizing. Like at my house growing up, I think was built in the 60s, but that was the new part of town because the other ones were all A's and B's. We called them A's and B's, and C's were the old, the war houses. And so it was just a cool place to live. A lot of community pride, a lot of parallels to Cleveland. I think that's why I've liked it here. A community that knew you and kind of helps you through. But I loved growing up there. But the one thing that's always been alluring to me from Cleveland is when the government came in, there's a couple communities, I think 5 communities maybe, they hammered them down. And so there's no downtown. There's no old building. There's none of that. There's no Ocoee Street that you walk in and you see 100 years of successful people on the promenade into town. Mm-hmm. It's all houses that were meant to be temporary. And so it's kind of a weird place from that standpoint.
Were y'all like running around on the playground as kids talking about my granddad helped build a bomb or
every majority of the town worked at the plants. And if you didn't work at the plants, you worked for, like my dad had a first cousin and they own this machine shop. And for 80 years now, that has been like one of the big defense contractors, and they've survived in the years that, Trump's in and they're living fat, but you may go to a military, check down era and they don't have a whole lot of work, but everyone kind of worked like that. And so if you didn't work directly for the plants, you worked for someone who worked for the plants. And, but there was always this rumor, growing up, K-25 is going to shut down. Well, K-25 did shut down. And now everything of course is within there. But I think maybe, but everyone's did that. Mine didn't. I kind of had like warring factions. My mom's grandmother's my mom's folks are all from West Tennessee, and from Benton County, from Camden, if you've ever been out there. Her dad built highways, so he came in to build roads by that. So she lived on a trailer within there. Well, if you didn't live in there, my other grandmother that lived in Briceville, all you know is you're hungry. You're getting water from a spring, you're, using an outhouse and you're hoping there'll be enough food. And through this fence that you can't go through, these people living this opulent, they've got, electricity and food and they're partying and you're hearing they've got these good jobs, but you don't have that. There's a lot of, at least felt like that for me. There's a lot of arrogance from Oak Ridge because you were one of those people. And there's a lot of resentment from the county because you weren't. And I think that's been, generational.
Really?
I'll tell you another aspect of it. Everyone there was new. No one's got, a foundry that their grandfather made or whatever. So in my era, we were all, the grandparents were there, the kids kind of grew up there, and then we were the grandkids. We were like the third generation of people to grow up in Oak Ridge. There's really no nepotism. There's no grandpa's company or grandpa's farm. There's no, and I think in a way that's not always great, because people can't foresee what the future is. But that's been, not in a negative way, but that's been something I've kind of learned in Cleveland is that there's names here that for 200 years have been upstanding names. And that was never a thing in Oak Ridge,
That makes sense. What about the inverse? You were talking about people sort of judge you from being from Oak Ridge or not from Oak Ridge. What about in your life? Has there ever been a time when you're hundreds of miles away and someone says, "Where are you from?" and you say Oak Ridge, and you catch any like, "Oh, tell me about this," or "Tell me about that"?
Not as many people would know about it as what you think. And Oppenheimer is like the worst movie I've ever seen. And I just didn't get it. I saw these people going to see it, and I'm watching it. I'm like, what the heck is this?
So you did see the movie.
And I just felt like that was going to be this Oak Ridge showpiece. I couldn't wait to see it.
Okay.
And I'm watching it. And he's having an affair, and he's still, it's just like sitting at all. I thought this was going to be a wartime Oak Ridge movie.
I would watch that movie you're describing.
Yeah.
But I also enjoyed Oppenheimer.
I mean, maybe. I don't think as many people know Los Alamos. People know Hiroshima.
But there's a Chicago story to that. There's a Washington State story to that. There's an Oak Ridge story to that. Like, I would love to see those stories told. It's not just out there.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. And it was a big part of growing up. I mean, the bomb sirens were tested the first Wednesday of every month at noon, and if you were new to town or you didn't, summer break came around, you're riding your bike, and you're, okay, that's what day it is or whatever. But every neighborhood had, bomb sirens.
So my dad did financial planning for the military. Mm-hmm. So we were up in Ohio, and so there's an Air Force base in Dayton. And then we moved to South Carolina because there's a big old Navy base in Charleston. Yeah. But then we moved to North Carolina to Camp Lejeune, which is the biggest Marine base in the world. And 70,000 civilians live in Jacksonville, and we've got 70,000 service folks in that town as well. So like there is this dividing line of the base and all of the coast that they own. But it was nothing for things to be like shake. You would think if you were anywhere else, that's an earthquake. But your normal is, oh no, they're just doing training on the base, but you can feel it. Or like you've got fighter jets just flying by, and it's almost, it's so loud. You feel like you could just reach up and touch something because it just feels so close. Right. But it just becomes your norm. You got Blackhawks flying up. Like anybody around here would be like, it's an invasion. And it was like, no, they're just doing their thing over there. So you live in these particular pockets. It's living history. Because like if troops are heading out, they're going to hop on that highway right there, and they're going to start their trek to go overseas somewhere and fight that next battle. So it's a super unique place to live. And that's how I view Oak Ridge, because I know some of that story for sure.
It was unique to grow up there, and it was it wasn't necessarily the excitement of the firefighter pilots, but I remember. There was a creek in town, and everyone knew you shouldn't mess in that water in the creek. And one time it overflowed all over the ball fields, and they came in and took topsoil off and replaced it. It was more of that kind of excitement.
No kidding.
And
that's not happening in Cleveland, is it?
It was. No. What they were able to accomplish, if someone comes to your house and they tell you got to get gone now, knock on the door, we're taking all this, you got to get gone, and we're not even going to tell you why. And there's these, Robertsville community was affluent. That's, Robertsville Middle School, the gym and the auditorium and all that. There were some of the war era buildings, but most of it was tore down. Wheat Community had a college, had this thriving peach, business where they canned and sent around the world. There was a big community that was over on the river. The Emory Road, if you've ever heard of the Emory Road, was like 1780. And there was a road from Knoxville, a wagon road from Knoxville to Nashville. It went through there. All that's wiped out. And within like 2 years, like K-25 had the biggest building in the world under space. And not only was it built, they had enriched uranium. Like they were able to it was functioning. And it's insane that they were able to do what they did. And they didn't leave a whole lot. I don't know that they did back then, but like our freshman practice football field, if you had to pee, you had to go to the bathroom. You're not going to go all the way back to school. You're going to go in this little wood line. Well, in this little wood line is this stone bridge. And that bridge, I never knew what it was, and they finally put up a historical marker. That was the Emory Road. That was the stagecoach road from Knoxville to Nashville. And it's still, if you go down there, it's still just sitting in a little edge of woods beside, the practice field.
It does make me think of TVA, though. hey,
Yeah.
all you families get out of here because we're about to flood
Yeah.
this. It wasn't a secret because then, I mean, here comes this whole flood of water
Right.
to replace all that. But
Yeah.
and that makes me think of Ozark as well.
Yeah.
Just got done.
Yeah, it
watching
makes
that
me
this
think of
summer.
over other where art thou.
Yeah.
Hey, if we take a field trip up there, what are we going to see?
I'm
From
going
a-
to the bridge.
From a
man.
hometown
Yeah, you
boy.
go to the bridge. You know, so I've been gone a while. You know, I've graduated high school in 2003. It's changed a lot. But it used to have this huge Museum of Science and Energy. They sold it, that property, the city did, and they moved it. So I've not been to the new one, so that's what I'm saying. But I think the Museum of Science and Energy,
So it does
seems to
still
be-
exist?
it exists somewhere in town. I just don't know where.
We have folks from Walker Valley taking people up there for field trips.
That was
I guess that's where they're going.
that's a really neat place. It really kind of paints a picture of what Oak Ridge was and how they did what they did. And I remember they had models of Big Boy and Fat Man or whatever, Little Man and whatever they called the two bombs, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. There's live models in there that you're life size, not live models, but of what what it was. But I don't know. I mean, there's really not as much up there to see as what you would think, because most of what the action is like I said, after 9/11, they moved everybody who didn't have any reason to be in the valley outside of the valley, and they walled it up, and you couldn't go in there.
Well, and that's why I was asking genuinely, because when he talks about making that part of that Brushy Mountain trip, I'm all about it, but I need to do some study and some education. Figure, are we just driving the bus around town and pointing at this? And what I'm saying?
There really wouldn't be. Again, you don't want to run them down, but there really wouldn't be anything to point out and see. I mean, most of the buildings were built to be temporary. When we pull out, we're tearing everything down and going to return it to its natural state. And there just weren't buildings of significance.
So do I just have a picnic in a park up there and have Paul tell a story
You
while
could
we
go.
eat?
I'll tell you a cool thing to do. When on the
I'm in for that.
50th anniversary of the bombing. So it had been, 1995. The Japanese came over from Hiroshima and presented Oak Ridge with this bell. And it's what you imagine. The log comes back. I'm sure there's a name for it, but the log comes back and it hits it and it gongs or whatever. They present Oak Ridge with this bell, and it is still, it was in a place, and then now they've even redone it, made it even a better setting for it. That might be worth seeing, because I remember that being a big ordeal. I remember we all went there in school, and a couple of them were chosen to ring the bell with the Japanese.
Wow. That the Japanese would even come over for a commemoration like that.
I think about that a lot, and I don't know if you've ever read the Killing the Rising Sun. Have you ever read any of the Killing series? It's like oh gosh, man, you guys would love that. It's a Bill O'Reilly is usually what turns people off, but hang with me.
Oh no, he's got the whole
I've
series.
I've read a lot of I've read a lot of the
So
Killing.
you've read you've read the
Lincoln,
Killing.
Kennedy.
Okay.
Killing Lincoln, Killing
Jesus,
Kennedy, Killing Jesus,
yeah. Killing the Rising Sun. They talk a lot about it, and
I didn't even know that was one in the series.
It's horrific.
I didn't either. I've never heard of it.
And for us it was a victory, and it would have been. It is what it is, but like the actual dropping of that bomb it's horrific. What the result of what that thing was made to do, and it did exactly what it was made to do, and it ended the war, and we were able to move on. But I would think after 50 years, man, I need a little more than that. You vaporized 80,000 people immediately, and however many more happen. I would think I'd need a little more, but I guess they were ready to move forward.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're right.
But I don't, as of what you could see, other than that.
You don't want us to go to Oak Ridge High School and look at all the championship banners? We don't need to go see that?
You could go.
I don't want to go see that.
You could go. It's it's I've got a buddy up there that's the OC now. Spent 15 years of his, could have done anything he wanted in the world, and he wanted to mold men and be a football coach. And he spent 15 years, Kent State, New Mexico State, went out to South Carolina somewhere. I can't remember, maybe, I don't know, went out to South Carolina. Butch Jones calls him up. This is my big chance. He was there for Butch's demise, the last year of Butch's, and like
brick,
after he thought
brick
that
by
was,
brick.
yeah, brick by brick, except for they were pulling him out on him when he was up there. He went up to Eastern Kentucky and then went to Carson Newman and finally decided, that's a young man's game. And if you're not on that rocket ship early on, you're not getting on it. And so he's the OC at Oak Ridge now. And he was telling me the other day that, like how long it's been since any team has won a state championship at Oak Ridge. And I'm telling you, growing up, it was every year there were 2 or 3 of them, maybe girls tennis or cross country or
girls basketball was winning championships.
Girls basketball. So my senior year, we had a team that probably had 3 D1 girls for sure. One of them, T. Higgins' sister, another one that started as a freshman at Kentucky, another one was Miss Basketball finalist and went to UNC Greensboro or somewhere out there, and then there was probably 4 or 5 others that were D1 or D2 players, and didn't win a state championship. Wow, that was the Shelbyville era. You remember the Shelbyville era? And so nobody
Sarah,
was beating
she's
Shelbyville.
mid-90s and had a tough time getting past Bradley because they had, Paige and Amy, and Bradley kept getting stopped, if I'm not mistaken, by Shelbyville. Yeah. That was towards the end of the run, but that was that era. Didn't win state. He in 2000 to 10, and then now 10 to 20, and now we're going 20 to 30. Those are the only decades they never won a state championship in football. Last year they could have done it, but they got bumped up to 6A, and 6A was a different beast. I think they could have done it, but they've played in a couple. So you'd be looking at banners of has been, what it is, but it is a cool school. It's a city school, very similar setup to like Cleveland. There's 4 elementaries. Nobody switched unless you got in trouble. 2 went to 2 middle schools, and then 2 middle schools went to 1 high school. And that's the dream right there.
And it's
where everybody knew where they were going to school.
And the 2 middle schools wouldn't add up to a COE, really? but they just, that's the way they do it. And COE plays one of them. I went to Robertsville, but the other one's Jefferson. And COE plays Jefferson this year. I have a Robertsville shirt on that I lift up. But.
There you go. Man, we started talking about physical therapy, and I think we should have been talking about World War II the whole time.
We probably could have from the jump.
Yeah.
We didn't know you were the local historian at Oak Ridge.
You're reading books about it. You're doing all the
all right. I listen to books. I'd fall asleep.
That's reading these days.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. So next time we'll start there.
We get into all. We get into all that. I love talking high school sports and we talk all kinds of stuff.
I'm just glad you answered the phone back in March. Who called you? Was it Don Patterson that called you? Isaac needed some help with his shoulder, and we just got
I was
the ball
working.
rolling.
I was down at Ringgold High School, and I'm working the clock. Don sends me a message. I thought, well, I'll call him back here when I get done doing this. And then I get the call from Sarah. Oh, there must be something going on up there. And so she kind of kicked it off. And I'd seen them do, I don't know how much you want to share of what they did. I guess you did share a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd seen them do that before in a locker room for an ankle. And it was a situation you wouldn't, you certainly wouldn't want to do that indefinitely.
Yeah, for sure.
But this kid it was an Ottawa kid, and the physician was in the locker room. It was a senior night. They were either going to win or they were not going to win. Either way, this kid was probably not going to play much more. Not senior night. It was probably second round of playoffs. And they injected it with just let's numb it. You're not going to make it any worse. We'll tape it up. We'll make it safe. We'll numb it. And so I thought surely they could do that for him. And So I called Spangler, and he said, yeah, they would do that. And so then I said, well, who up there would do it? And he didn't know. So I called Teal. Teal, do you know Joseph Teal? He's the PA over there. He's from Dixon. So he surely knows somebody in Nashville. So I called Teal. And he says, yeah, they would probably do that, but you need to go to this place and just explain the circumstances. So I call them. I call the place up. They tell me, I can't remember what even clinic that was. One Nashville or something or other. TOA, but it was one Nashville. And I call the lady, and they're in clinic, Saturday morning emergency sports clinic. And I told her the circumstances. And you could tell just like her eyes are spinning, like, what in the heck are you trying to say? And I said, this kid is going to play in a state championship game. He is done after this game. All he needs to do is get through this game. Would you consider doing this shot? I know they do it around there. And she said, hold on, let me ask. And she went back and she talked to whoever doc was in there, and she came back and she said, where's he at? And I told her, and she said, yes, send him in. And so I don't know. I don't guess you guys ever went over there, did you? I found out later someone at the facility did it.
No, in the end, I called Russ Williamson. You know Russ?
No.
Okay, so he got his start at Lee, and then he bounced around, but he spent time at Tennessee Tech, but then ended up at Tennessee State.
Mm-hmm.
He's now selling insurance,
mm-hmm.
but he had so many connects. Because remember, just one phone, like I was on the phone with Coach Reuter.
Yeah.
I was like, Reuter, who you know at MTSU?
Yeah.
I mean, like we were working.
Right.
You were a phone call. He was a phone call. But in the end, Russ got a hold of somebody who was once a Tennessee Titan team doctor who was not available but willing. And he said, if you can make it within this window, we'll give this shot. And then he's got to get back. But we had to go to Nashville. We went downtown Nashville. But we were reminiscing on this the other night. And Sarah was like, how quickly did you know that you were going to be able to play after that shot? He said, immediately.
Yeah.
He said, as soon as he got it and he raised his hands above, because, I mean, buddy, there were tears. I mean, we had just won. And he wasn't the only one crying. Teammates were crying.
Yeah.
Because what a huge game. We had just won.
Yeah.
And we're about to go to the championship game, and like Isaac is not going to play. I mean, there's not a chance in the world this guy's going to play. He checked himself out in the last 40 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's part of the story. He rolled up to Cale on timeout and was like, you have to check in for me. And Cale was like, okay. You know, I mean, Cale's always ready to roll. But for him to check himself out, I mean, his arm was dangling.
That's probably one of the most painful things. Fortunately, it's never happened to me, but every year in football, the way they hit, kind of pulls them down. You get that AC separation. It is, and it just is. It probably still hurts him, I assume, to some extent. But
I mean, he's doing okay. But in that game, the first one, he stole a basketball, but he had to reach for it at full speed, and then he started down. I mean, we were like, okay, he's gonna be fine, you know. But we would have never done that if it wasn't just one game left. I don't think
or maybe you would have, because then you could try to get to the state championship. That is always such an interesting battle. So my freshman year, we have this kid that's already committed to Georgia Tech. He's an incredible basketball player. It's been incredible since he was, young. There's another kid that was, I think, a semifinalist, Mr. Basketball and Mr. Football. He's on this team. They just have this incredible team. And you think there's no one in state going to beat them. They draw Raleigh, Egypt, first or second round, and just get beat like a drum. And I just think those Memphis teams are just, they're
a beast.
They're another.
Yeah.
My wife is from Memphis, and of course she doesn't follow it or anything. But her dad, he lives in Bartlett now, and he was calling and telling me, he's like, "Y'all know about this Bartlett team?" Like, I don't know, man. I feel like Walker's pretty good, And, but what an achievement, what an amount of games you have to win to even make the state tournament, and then to make the championship game. To me, is
we'll remember it forever.
That is an achievement.
Yeah,
and
proud of those guys.
Yeah, and what an example for these boys that are coming into the school. And the last team that played here was state runner-up, and that's the program we're walking
I'm excited
into.
for these younger guys because they got to see it.
Yeah.
The Jacoby Woods were coming up as these guys were kind of young.
Mm-hmm.
there was just some good teams coming through here that they got to see what is possible in our teeny tiny town.
Right.
So
well, that
it was cool to represent.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Talk about a COVID robbery. That team's state champs.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
What a game that Bradley, Cleveland district or with region championship over here.
Yeah. I was down on the baseline.
What a crazy series of events. Stands up, runs into the official. What a crazy series. I see that, he calls, what is that kid's name that went out there and knocked the free throws down to win it? He was their big stud that year. Mason. What's his last name? Rothwell. Mm-hmm. Wasn't it him that knocked the
I can't remember.
And I give him a hard time about that. He always calls the games. If you play an AAU game at Lake Forest, it's him and Nipper. And I always tell boys, you're looking at a legend over there.
Yeah. I love some Mason Rothwell, though.
That's funny.
It was a big deal in my life.
Well, boys, this has been fun. Can we land this plane?
Well, you tell me.
You're in charge, man.
I think we better. We're at an hour and 51.
I don't know what we've accomplished here.
This is what we do, man. This is the invite. This is
what we do.
Love
we've now figured out where when we do have our real conversation in the future, we've figured out now where to start it. So
after we come back from our field trip,
we've got after you get up to Oak Ridge, we're going
to take you on the field trip with us. Can you?
Well, you can't miss it. Have you been in from Lenoir City through the big curvy roads? That's all again DOE property.
There's a way when traffic was a certain way and I was hauling prisoners over wherever, there was a way that we would get off the interstate way early. Would have to be 95 at Lenoir City. Probably. And the road's real curvy and it's all woods. It's all woods. Pop out. Yeah, everything was woods. Yeah. That's government land. And when you pop out that way, you come into town. As soon as you come into town, on the right, there are alpacas and donkeys, and that's my parents. So that's about the only thing I can point out. Are you lying right now? No. Oh, that's where we're going on the field trip. So I'll tell you one more thing. So we watched a TV growing up that, it's probably 32 inch, but it seemed huge. You had this growing spot. I mean, it probably over 2 years, this spot grew to where you couldn't even hardly see some of the games. But, the TV's so expensive, you just kind of. Yeah, it costs you $3,000. Look around it. Yeah, It's a piece of furniture. Yeah. Wouldn't replace it until it was, time. I mean, I just can't. There's a million examples like that of us just doing things that were, just the cheaper way to do something. My mom couldn't stand to get rid of those alpacas, so they kept breeding. Well, they got more than what they had could support. They're like alpaca shepherds, or they were pets. They're out on the hills. They were pets to her. She'd stop at the Subway on the west end of town, and they would give her stale bread, and she would feed these alpacas bread every day, and so she couldn't. There's some things that spit. Oh yeah, they spit. Like a small llama. Llama is what I'm thinking of. Yeah. So llamas are big. Alpacas are. Alpaca looks like if you took your granddaughter in 6 months and you told her draw a funny looking creature, his skinny head, long neck, weird body, and I'm thinking of a llama. They brought a llama through the horse cell one time, and my buddy went to jump on its back and it spit. Yeah. These will spit. Well, she couldn't stand to get rid of them. They were, that's her babies, and so they eat the grass down so low that they began to get parasites because there's some kind of worm that gives them meningeal, virus. I don't know. Gets in there, eats this thing. It goes paralyzed. They get home. This thing's leaned against a tree, and it's falling down. That's not funny. Could you imagine? Yes, it is. That's not funny. It's totally funny. They load this thing up and they take it to UT Vet Hospital. And this rascal is on a underwater treadmill. Jeez. Rehabbing. There's no telling what they paid for that thing. And I'm watching the TV with that's the third how you got in the game. That's how you got into physical therapy. You were inspired. I can't even see this football game. This was like 5 or 6 years ago. I'm old enough now to think, what the heck are y'all doing? Why didn't you just bring him to Benton? I could have done this myself. Yeah. He's up there. Put that tacker unit on it. It'll be over. They brought him back, and that thing lived probably 2 weeks and died. and I bet you.
I mean, it's just, but like, how do you say that's what my mom
funny.
wanted to do, and that's what she did? So
It's not funny, Paul.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
It just, I don't know. It just, if you come into town, that's probably the two landmarks: Japanese Bell, Museum of Science and Energy, a
Story
weird
time at the
collection
bridge.
of
Paralyzed
alpacas.
alpaca.
Yeah, well, he died.
Oh, okay.
They, I can't remember his name, but yeah, he's no longer with us. But they're weird creatures.
We have to end on that.
I don't
We
even know.
have to.
I don't even know what to say. Brian, thank you for coming up and hanging
Man,
out.
thank
with
you
us.
for
man.
talking.
This has been fun.
Heck
This has
yeah.
been fun. We're doing this again.
Let's meet you at the Rubies at 9 a.m. on a different day.
buddy. Next summer, because I'm in school now. You should have told me this 2 weeks ago. Next summer, I'll be sneaking into Rubies out there.
Tuesday at 9.
Oh, hey, what are all you guys doing here?
yeah, and I guarantee they'll be cutting up.
Because I've heard a couple stories. There's been people coming at me with John Dixon's story. They told me, what someone came at me the other day was, hey, you talked to John Dixon, but that Larry Davis he kept telling you
Oh,
about,
man.
he's a nut. They said there's this boy, and this has been years ago. They had someone stealing something in the locker room.
Oh God, I've heard this story.
Have you heard this story?
Oh man, it's the funniest story ever.
Well, then you tell it, because I've just heard it like literally yesterday.
So they.
But if you're gonna tell it, you got to tell how he got his nickname too.
So I don't know the guy's nickname. I just have heard
Well,
Derek tell.
you tell the stealing story then, and I'll tell the nickname.
So they had a bunch of stuff, I guess, kept coming missing in the locker room, and they couldn't figure out who it was. So they had, like, I guess, a team manager who here's the connection. She is married. The team manager's daughter is married to a Walker Valley graduate. They just graduated. He just graduated PT school, and they moved to Alaska. But she made us this big quilt. We've got this quilt in the clinic that she made. But that was her dad. I guess he was some kind of team manager. I don't know him. But
if it's the same person, he's a teacher, or he was a teacher at the high school.
Still is.
Yeah,
still is.
Okay, yeah. Then yeah,
and is, I think, a longtime employee of Stoney's. I think he's the one that makes your Stoney dog up there.
Okay.
So they send him in there and they tell him to hide under some stuff and just keep a lookout. And they go out on the football team and they get the meanest kid, they said, out there, the kid nobody will mess with me. And they tell him, go in there and rummage through some stuff and pick some money out of wallets and whatever and come out. And he said, so he came out and they went to practice. And at the end of practice, they called him in and were like, hey, did you see anything? And he said, nope, not a thing. Yeah. Yeah. And you
so that's a
smart Coach Larry to tell that story.
Yeah,
man.
I heard it was like almost the exact same story. The way I heard it was they sent him in there to hide, and hey, if you see anybody take anything, you tell. Well, they went straight out and got the biggest, meanest linebacker on the team, and they told him, hey, there's a ball cap hanging on a hook in there. Go in there and get that ball cap. And anyways, but that boy at some point had showed up to play football, and it was either Larry or John Dixon looked at him and was like, hey, son, you too little. You're in the wrong place. Foosball's somewhere else. So they start calling this guy Foos, and he's been his students for years. My wife, that's how she knows him, is by
Well,
Foos.
that's how I hear him refer. I've never known why they call him that. I didn't know that's what that.
It was reported to me that Larry Davis was the one that said, you ain't here to play football. You need to be playing foosball.
Have you? I mean, if you could hear Coach Larry's voice, it's just this commanding. Just the most coach voice you've ever heard. It's incredible. If he'd read an audible, you would be. You couldn't even drive to work. You'd be so fired up.
Really? Is that where John Dixon gets it from? Because John Dixon kind of can turn on the boom.
Oh yeah. So imagine that times 10. Well, they said when he retired, they moved him as PE teacher in South Polk, and they said he would keep this picture in his wallet of this lady that I guess was an unattractive lady in his wallet he cut out of a magazine or a newspaper or something. And they said he'd call people up there and he'd get it out or whatever, and he'd show it to them, and he'd say, "It's my wife. What do you think about her?" And he said the kids would just look at him like, that's a nice picture or something, and he put it back and would never tell him any different. And go, man, there's just, that's what I mean, it's just, how do you live a life like that? Like John Dixon, like
we
Larry
ask that
Davis,
all the time, man.
like,
that's
Frank,
the question we're asking.
But we're
how
in
do you
pursuit
live
of
a life
man.
like that?
We're in pursuit of it.
And how much of that is who you are, or how much of it is who you develop to be? You hope you're inspiring. You hope you're someone that people see in a light, not, a peer, but someone that you see as, somebody that's, man, that's an interesting person you could tell stories of. And what are the factors that go into that? Is it I think, and I've told this is probably too deep a conversation for the closing, but I've only ever been a Methodist. My grandfather was a Methodist preacher. I grew up in the Methodist church in town. We've been members at Broad Street since we came here. I've only ever been a Methodist. And I wonder sometimes are you a Methodist because that's what you know? Or is that, I mean, it's just, same thing for are the core tenets of being Methodist why I'm in everything in my life? I don't know if you've been around. It's a pretty ride the fence, not too hot, not too cold, just focusing on, what I would perceive as the important. I've lived my whole life that way. And then sometimes you see these people like that, and they've not been that way. They've been hammered down, one direction or another. And can you get off the fence and go that way?
I'm hearing this from a guy that opened up a physical therapy shop in Polk County, Tennessee.
With borrowed money from the house his kids lived in.
Borrowed money.
That's full throttle.
From a HELOC.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I hear you. I love the question, but give yourself a little bit of you any business owner, not just you, but you. I'm talking to you. Like, it took one good ballsy move for that to happen.
Yeah.
Built upon a life of experience. I mean, you were as experienced. If there's a physical therapist in our area that needs to go out on his own, it's you. But it's still like, hey, this is real. I got people, I got kids depending on me to eat.
They like wearing shoes.
They like wearing
shoes. But out in Polk
shoes.
County, you don't have to.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Get out of here. No, I hear that question, though. I mean, like, I'm a Pentecostal kid who met the daughter of a Southern Baptist minister. Those are two different worlds. When you talk about how are you shaped,
right?
And I had to call my mama when we started getting serious and go, hey, I love this Baptist girl. Can I really do this? Can I marry a Baptist girl? And my mom, she didn't even blink. She's like, of course you can. You shouldn't even think twice. But for some reason, I was, because there is just something.
So what would the Pentecostal being enthusiastic, I would assume, I was telling
I can't wait to hear all your Methodist stereotypes you're about to give.
Yeah. Well, see, that's where you go. So
no, but I hear you.
Not too hot, not too cold. We're not going to polarize. Really solidly.
Methodist,
how I've lived
about?
My Methodist, solidly middle class. My dad's a PE teacher. My mother's a nurse. No one's taking risk. We're kind of just long line of normal kind of people. And to me, that's always been like Methodist. There's not,
Can you say cuss words and drink beer?
I mean, you probably shouldn't, but, I'm sure, my parents never cussed. I'll tell you that. But, but you think like.
What was Bob Taylor's cuss word? He's a Methodist. What's that word?
Great Mother. Was it Great Mother Bear?
Great Mother Bear?
Something Mother Bear.
You ever heard Bob Taylor say that?
Well, and he always has this thing, and he calls himself a, oh my gosh.
Jerk face.
Jerk face.
Yeah, we were talking jerk face.
He calls himself a jerk. Well, I'm a jerk face. I couldn't wait. So if you go into his wood shop, up on the wall is this cross-stitched.
Yep, he told us about it.
He
told us about it.
And that's a tenet of his life. But I guess I don't know even where I'm going with that. But I'm just saying I've always seen like make a decision on this. That's not really what we do. Make a decision. That's not really what we do. For a large part, that's why the Methodist Church denomination was one of the last major denominations to split, because they'd tell you to make a decision, and we just rather not. Let's just keep doing what, even when we did split, it was the most Methodist thing ever. And the preacher was not allowed to initiate it because that needs to be the will of the congregation. And whatever your congregation decided on certain issues, that was for you guys could kind of do what you want to do, which is the most Methodist thing ever. And so I feel like that has, in some way or another, shaped a lot of my conformity. And I think going out on your own or doing whatever, I see like a Pentecostal or whatever, a little more willing to be fiery or jump over that line.
The higher the high, though, the lower the low. And so that's the life that you're also seemingly choosing. We're there's a broad brush that we're using right now.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, like, you're on to something. But because you've been in this lane, buddy, I've been able to experience this other thing. And I'll tell you right now, I go hang out at St. Luke's in the morning. And then I'll go to my Baptist service with my family. Yeah. Because in this season of life, that liturgy really just settles something within me.
I completely agree.
You know what I'm saying?
There's something. Well, you guys need to come look. We're wrapping up probably the most substantial renovation to Broad Street Methodist in
I've been watching
100-something years, and it was. Fortunately, I've been able to be on trustees through kind of we got to do something. I mean, the church was literally going to fall into Broad Street, and so something had to be done, and you guys would love to just see the inside of that, but
So we do downtown local walking history tours. In Broad Street. We went in there last spring or fall. Yeah, we did 5.
Who led the tour?
We did 5 churches. We were eating somewhere, and one of my students ran into someone at the church, and they just said, "Hey, you want to come see us too?" Yeah. And of course we did.
I think I ran off a couple last week that was just there visiting, and I wanted to show them, look at what we're doing. But so the weight of the roof at some point, which I mean, half of it was figuring out the history. So it's National Historic Building. You can't just do anything to it. Well, it had a slate roof. Well, the weight of the roof was never meant to be the weight of the roof. It had what they found up there where different pitches of the roof had been made over the years, that the original roof was, tin shingle. The weight was bowing all those beams out. And so, I mean, eventually that has stopped somewhere, and the whole thing racks into Broad Street.
Gosh.
And so in addition to that, there was water damage, had to be repointed. Had to be the windows were so settled that there was some spots you could put your whole hand behind it, in between the window and the protective sheathing on the outside where it was all done. So it should be good for another 150 years. And it just, to me, is like, you talk about, liturgical settings. I mean, there's just the sitting in the balcony up there is just, there's no better place, I think, to just feel that peace that you're talking about.
Well, the Stress family, Discavage family, the Stokes family. Right. I mean, we know people over there. Yeah. So I've
Well, we're looking for good tithing members. So
listen to this. Yeah.
You come on over.
I've always been scared to death of that place.
So I think
spoken like a South Bradley County kid.
Yeah.
Both of my parents worked for them for most of my life.
Yep.
So I think probably what you're thinking of,
it's just fancy to me,
is the old. What you would find now is that kind of ends with, and I don't want to say anything about, negative, because it's been a very well maintained and good church, but you hit 70 and there's not a whole lot of population between 70 and 40. And so there are people coming up now, and we are kind of building that back up now. But there were some years there that there probably was a perception of exclusive membership into that. And I think you wouldn't. So we go Sundays. I get in there. Usually I'm listening, having an anxiety attack for Monday. I'm not paying attention at all. Nervously drinking coffee or whatever. So you talk about like keeping the book at a basketball games. I volunteer to read the scripture because it helps me like go up there and read it. I read whatever's on that paper, Ron Burgundy style. If it was wrong 2 weeks ago, and I read what's on the paper. But Wednesday night rolls around, and I the associate pastors typically who I go listen to, he goes through everything he talked about, and that's when I can lock in. That's when it's brought down to more my elementary level understanding. Well, in that room, there's at least one homeless guy's there every week, maybe another one sometimes. A couple that's 80 that's probably very wealthy, couple college kids.
Can appreciate
a guy that drives a beer truck. I mean, it is the most diverse, non-exclusive group that you've ever seen, and I think that'd break you from that. You come on in there.
But I'm going to have to navigate this building to get in there.
Listen to him. No, we're going to go in. We're going to take a left. We're going to go right there.
I need to be able to walk in.
It's catacombs.
Slip in.
Is. So they own the whole block. The church owns the whole block.
Yeah.
The block is the church. The building they built behind it. In the 60s, they acquired a house and they built what's called Triplet Hall behind it. Well, then that front is 5 individual buildings that at some point somebody came through and made it look like the face of one building.
Yeah.
And they're in terrible shape. And they're about to, really, as soon as the sanctuary stops, the fence is moving down the road and we're tearing one of them down and we're making a courtyard out there and making it kind of like the Presbyterians got to jump on us when they tore the jail down and made that beautiful area out there. So we had to do something.
Is the jail gone?
Jail's gone.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, and if you drive by that jail, when they had Inman Street shut down and you had to go First Street into town coming out of Polk County and around, you had to drive by. Old jail's gone. The Presbyterians have built just this area, and there's kids in it playing, and it is so vibrant and life-giving to see it. And so that's what we're trying to do with tearing one of those buildings down. The short of it is it costs more to fix it than it did tear down, so we had to do something. And
is the gym going to survive?
Gym survives.
That's an old gym.
Gym survives. 1920 is when that part was built. And but the catacombs, the confusing of it, go away when that one building. So that's what I'll say. So it will be, you walk in and it will make sense. But
I just remember running around in there as a kid and I'd get so lost.
Yeah.
Of course, I probably wouldn't as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. It's where you could get lost. I'll tell you one more thing about it. So the money that we've been able to, this stewardship of this money that has been just multi-generational fund that's really sustained our church when we're low this year, but we've got this money that we can pull from to kind of help us weather through while still supporting missions and all the things that the church wants to support, the Unity Center. That money is a lot of what we're using to fix the church, and in addition to others. But that money, when they start looking back, how do we even have this money? Where did this even come from? The guy that invented the flume, designed the flume, the engineer, like a Coe number 2, down to the powerhouse and run down, the wooden flume, traveled the world because, speaking on his, engineering feat. And he was evidently a member of the church and donated amount of money to the church that was able to grow into what's allowing us to fix it today. So that's that flume, the Polk County flume. That's my tie back to Methodist. I'm in Polk County, and that money's what's fixing our church up right now. But if that is a tie back to Methodist, but
no, it is. It is.
How you gonna land the plane now?
Hey.
We're still flying.
A John Wesley quote.
Yeah, go.
Or, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. One time I went to scavenger hunt and I got a John Wesley bobblehead I keep in my desk. But in terms of stories of the man, my grandfather had a 70s John Wesley poster. I mean, like right with your long flowing hair, riding a horse or whatever.
Really?
But I don't know anything
you're
about
Methodist.
You come, I'll show you some of my my stuff I've collected. Chairs, stoles, cups. You know, I've got my grandfather's Korean War field communion kit. You know, that he would.
Wow.
I guess if you were in the middle of the war and you needed a communion, I've got all this Methodist stuff. You ever want to come see it?
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, I appreciate you being here.
Man, appreciate you having me.
We'll do this again.
We'll do
this again. Thank y'all for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.
Bills, I don't know what you do with any of that.